that time, he was flipping homes and acquiring rentals. He's the president of Avalon Capital, which he founded in 2020. His company provides financing for residential investment real estate. Craig has been featured in the Memphis Business Journal and the Commercial Appeal. Let's give it up for our guest speaker today.
Then when we flip through, do I just tell you when we want to go to the next slide, or how are we going to do this? I don't know if I had a clicker. We start at the first one with just the logo.
Yeah, sure. All
There we
right.
go.
Yeah.
We ready? Okay, like I said, my name's Craig Jennings with Avalon Capital, and I've been, first of all, I've known Joe since I guess we started in 2000. I've known her, she knew me since the very beginning when I was doing this. I started out right out of college, went to Ole Miss, graduated in 97, and if you'll indulge me, I want to tell kind of the backstory of how we got started. It sounds like it's a room of entrepreneurs here, so I'll tell the story of how we got started and how the business kind of grew slowly over the years and turned into a fairly good sized company. We're the #1 private lender in Memphis. We're #2 in the state of Tennessee right now. So we've really grown in 3.5 years, really had some significant growth. Graduated from Ole Miss in 97. Always knew I wanted to work for myself. Went to work for my dad. He owned a janitorial company. So I spent 2 or 3 years cleaning toilets. I probably cleaned every toilet in the city. From gas stations to the racetrack, Greyhound Park. I've done the nastiest job ever. My dad had a good business, but I realized that wasn't the business I wanted to be in. It was rough, but it taught me to work hard. So anyway, I was reading the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki, kind of inspired me and kind of got me interested in real estate. I'd been 99, so I got my dad to co-sign on a loan for $40,000 with me, and I bought a franchise, Homevestors. I don't know if you remember back in the day, the We Buy Ugly Houses billboards that were all over Memphis. That was me. I did that for about 8 years. Why that's significant, I did it up to about 2008. And I don't know if any of y'all remember what happened in 08. The market crashed, and all of a sudden I didn't need to be spending that much money to find a cheap house to buy. They were everywhere. So at the time, my wife was a stay-at-home mom, had 3 kids at home, 3 kids in private school, and I was in terrible financial distress. I wasn't bankrupt yet, but I could see it coming. So I'm sitting there kind of wringing my hands, trying to figure out how to get out of that mess. And I always have a financial network going on the TV at my office. And I saw a story about how Australia, their dollar had gone up compared to our dollar. It usually hovers around 65 cents to our dollar. And the story on MSNBC was about how Australians were coming to America, packing up Harley Davidsons, shipping them back to Australia because they didn't have to change the side of the steering wheel. And it was a currency play. So it got me thinking that we could do that as a currency play for real estate. So I stopped at Walmart. I remember this clearly, and it's a testament to how broke I really was. I stopped at Walmart to get an international calling card, and I still remember it costing $30 and being stressed about $30. That's the level of broke I was. So anyway, went home that night, and they're about 12 hours ahead of us. It's almost the opposite. So I sat on my front porch at midnight and made my first international call. Started cold calling real estate brokers in Sydney, Australia. Talked to the first guy. I told him, I said, look, in Memphis, the real estate has gone down. You can buy a home for about $60,000 here. It'll rent for $750, and it'll be a currency play. You'll be buying depressed real estate, and they'll be buying it with strong Australian dollars. So it was as much currency play as it was buying cheap real estate. And the sales pitch was, when your dollar goes back to 65 cents, you'll be getting rent in strong US dollars. Or if you sell the home, you'll not only have a home that's worth a lot more, but it'll also be sold in a stronger currency, and it'll be a double whammy for them. And I told the guy that, and he was like, maybe we could sell that all day long. And I was like, really? So I called the second guy. Same response. Like, he almost didn't believe me that you could buy stuff like that, because the average sales price of the home in Sydney was about $300,000 at the time. So they couldn't believe you could buy stuff that cheap and it would rent for that. And the third person I called said the same thing. We could sell it all day long. He said, not only that, I want you to come over and speak at our real estate event. And I said, wow, okay. So I've talked at a lot of real estate conferences in the US, and it's usually, 30 people in a room trying to figure out how they can buy something for no money down. Nothing wrong with that. but that's what I was used to. So I went over there, I prepared a kind of crappy PowerPoint presentation. I put, I had a ton of homes I couldn't sell. So I had like 15 houses and I made little flyers for each one to sell. And I went over there for the event with my little PowerPoint, and it was like a Tony Robbins event. It was like there was 1,500 people in a stadium. I come out there and they put a headset on me and start playing Beautiful Day by U2, and I'm slapping high five walking down the stage. Hadn't really prepared a speech. And I'm sitting up there, just kind of shooting from the hip, talking to all these people because I'm overwhelmed. I was unprepared for what it was. And I started noticing at the back of the room, people are still on the flyers, take them. And I go back there and they're all gone. And they're supposed to be just for display. But when I got off the stage, they're all coming up to me and said, I'll take it. I'll take it. All 15 of the properties sold. So at the time I was partners with Jim Reedy. I don't know if you know him. He's a big real estate guy in town. I said, Jim, buy everything you can buy. I can sell this all day long. So it was a fourth quarter Hail Mary touchdown. We were right at the steps of bankruptcy. And all of a sudden we became one of the people in Memphis that could sell real estate, that type of real estate. So that year we flipped 240 homes in Memphis. So we went from almost destitute to turning it all around. But my point of it is sometimes when your back's up against a wall, it's when you come up with your best ideas. So we did that for about 4 years. That year, I went to Australia about 8 times that year. And over the next 3 years, I was constantly going from here to New Zealand and Australia, and even did some business in Singapore. And it turned out all those guys, we still talk to them. The real estate did go up in value, and their currency now sits at 68 cents, where when they bought it, it was over $1. So they're making out like bandits. So they did great. It all worked out for them. They made money. And it was a great situation. Well, after a while, that market has kind of died down, and a lot of other people got into it after we started doing it. So I just went back. I went out. Jim Reedy got bought out by a hedge fund. I went back on my own and started doing flipping homes like I'd always done. And in 2018 or 19, I can't remember, we bought a house on Avalon. Y'all know the street Avalon in Midtown. Bought this house, big house we renovated. We bought it for 150. We had to put about 70,000 in it. Sold it for 300. It's a great profit. We moved on. Well, about 6 months after that, I get served with papers from Bank of New York Mellon saying they still own the house. And I was like, and I'd sold it. So I thought, I'm fine. I had title insurance. Well, come to find out, I've learned title insurance only covers you what you bought the house for, not what you sold it for. So I had $150,000 I was not covered for. And so luckily I had a little extra cash at the time, and I stuck it in a side account, and I called them Avalon Capital, and it was going to cover me in case the lawsuit didn't go my way. So the lawsuit went on and ended up being fine. But as the lawsuit was going on, I used to borrow from companies like Avalon Capital, private lenders. So instead of borrowing from them, I said, I'm just going to start borrowing from Avalon Capital and making loans to my own company. And then it's almost like playing chess against myself. I started seeing both sides. I started seeing the finance side, and then I started seeing the house flipping side of things. And I started realizing it's a lot easier the finance side was a lot easier than the dealing with contractors and everything else. So in 2020, I decided I'm going to take a leap of faith, stop flipping homes. I still flip a few homes. I'm an addict. But we decided to start. I said, I'm just going to keep it at Avalon Capital. I said, we're going to come up with a name. And I started trying to come up with all these different names. And I said, well, Avalon Capital, always like businesses that start with the A, because you show up first in the directory. I said, we'll just keep it Avalon Capital. And so we started the LLC, Avalon Capital, in 2020. And now since then, in 3.5 years, we've grown up. We have a loan balance of about 21 million out. It's just really grown. And like I said, we've grown into the second largest lender in the state of Tennessee, private lender. So it's really been kind of a really dynamic growth. And that's how we got here. And so what I'll do next, I'll kind of show you about our product and what we do and everything else. I just thought that tell some entrepreneurs that story. And bottom line is the best things that have ever happened to me is when I think things are the worst. Sometimes it forces you to think outside the box and come up with a different way of doing business. That's Avalon Capital. That's our little office building. We're on Oak Haven, which is right near Memphis Funeral Home, near Poplar and 240, if you know where that is. We've been there for about almost 3 years, about 2.5 years. You can go next one. The technical term of our loan is a residential transition loan. And this is a new term. It used to be, they called us hard money lenders or private lenders or fix and flip loans. Well, the industry is starting to get a little more, I hate to use the word legitimate, but it's starting to get more mainstream, I guess is the word I should use. So residential, of course, you know what residential means. Transition means that our loans are for homes that are in some form of transition. Like a home you see there that's been burned. We make the renovation loan. We make the loans that the banks won't touch. No bank would make that loan. And that's our niche. You can go to the next one. And these are just some examples. Well, these are our terms. Like I said, our loans are a lot higher risk because we're making all of our loans are in the house is in some form of distress, whether it's financial distress, whether it's, you know, physical distress or something. The house needs work and traditional financing won't work for it. Our loans are not for every product. If it's a fully renovated home, you're better off going to Joe Garner and getting a loan and just doing it traditionally. Because ours are a little more expensive. And our loans are made to purchase, renovate, and get out of it. And either get out of it by selling it or refinancing it with someone like Joe for permanent financing. So what we do, first of all, our loan is an asset-based loan. We don't pull credit. We don't do appraisals. My 20 years of flipping homes I know what a home is worth more than an appraiser does. I hate to say that, I just do. I know what a renovation costs and all that. We've renovated so many homes. So we'll do 75% loan to value. What I mean by that, let's say a home after it's fixed up is worth $100,000, but it's going to take $20,000 to get it there. So we'd take 100 minus the $20,000 renovation, and we will loan 75% of the 80,000 is what we loan. We charge 5 points loan origination, which is 5%, and it's 1% interest only per month, and it's a 6-month loan. If it comes to that end of the 6 months and you need another 6 months, we can charge 2% and get the loan extended for another 6 months. We don't pull credit. It's a super easy application. You just go to our website, avaloncapitalmemphis.com, and we generally can get you an answer in 48 hours. And if we have to, we can close in about the same amount of time as long as title work is ready. We don't like to do that. My team all tells me not to promote that because it puts them in a bad spot, but we have done it and can do it. We'll go to the next slide. These are just some examples of some of our local guys that send us some before and after pictures. This is bread and butter for us. This is very typical of the type of homes we like to do. With doing so many loans, we've learned the houses that we see our guys have success with and the ones they don't. This is a perfect house to have success with. It's a simple roof line. That home was probably built in the 70s or 80s. Pretty standard renovation. Some of the stuff where we're seeing some of our guys have more struggles are these, you know, these bungalow 1925 home with trouble. You don't even realize what you're getting into until you really start getting into things. And it's hard to really do a budget on these old homes. So we're seeing our guys have a lot of success with just these typical, nothing sexy about them, house like that. Next one.
Could you give us the numbers, like the before and after figures on that, just roughly?
I don't know. I mean, I'd be just making up numbers on that one. I don't even know what street that house is on, honestly. We probably do 250 loans a year. So I kind of forget, they all kind of run together. I could do that though, with email. I could send some examples and, you know, black out some people's information. But I should have prepared something like that, but I didn't. This is just another example of a kitchen, because we have, you know, a lot of people assume that our loans are for people with bad credit, and they're not. Before I started Avalon, I use these type of loans exclusively. I used Bridge Capital as a big company I used. It has nothing to do with the credit. It has to do with the property not being bankable. Because something like that, if you went to Joe and said, I want a loan on that top house, they're not going to loan on that house.
Not on traditional financing.
Not traditional financing. So that's what we do. But our guys, we have some really talented renovation guys in Memphis. And that's just an example of, you know, one of the kitchens they did on I think this was a burnout. So you can go to the next one. And that's just another example of, just like I said, these simple structure homes are usually the most straightforward. They lend themselves to making a budget that actually pans out to be accurate. It's not overly big house. Like I said, easier for contractors to come in there and give you a bid that usually sticks to the budget pretty close.
Tree looks expensive.
What's that?
Tree looks expensive.
It probably was.
It's not in this.
Yeah, not anymore.
This is our team. I'll start with up at the top with Andrea. Andrea she used to work at Bridge Capital. I don't know if anybody knows Bridge Capital. They're a company that basically they got their start when they started financing the Australians I was bringing over here to buy homes. That's how Bridge Capital got started. No banks were lending to Americans, let alone Australians coming in town. So Bridge Capital got started, and Andrea was their first employee. She was their CFO and got started, and I got to really know her well during my years of flipping homes. So when I decided to start Avalon, she had just left a Bridge, and I called her to kind of start as a consultant, and the business grew really fast, and she's just been invaluable with the company. She has so much knowledge with banking relationships and this business. Next was Robert Bell, who's here today, and most of you probably met him. Robert Bell's the guy, when you go to our website and you apply for the loan, Robert's the first one that takes the ball and runs with it. He takes the properties, he gets on the MLS, we run comps, look at everything. Then he drives by to looks at if the renovation numbers seem in place, and then he and I come back and we do a loan committee and we go over it. So Robert is the first one to take this and analyze the deal and bring it back to me, and we go over it every week. And there's Marla. Marla's been with me longer than anybody at the company. She's been with me 8 years, and she was with me before we even started Avalon when I was straight flipping homes, and she knows how much less stressed I am now than when I was flipping 20 homes at a time. So it's been a lot. I'll probably live 10 years longer doing this, but Marla's seen more of the company and seen it grow and see it change more than anybody. She processes the loan. She makes sure they have the insurance. She makes sure that all the docs are in place and ready for the thing to go to closing. But she also just runs the office also. She not only deals with Avalon Capital stuff, she deals with some stuff that's from old businesses and rental properties and everything else. So she does wears a lot of hats, but she's our senior loan processor. Claire Davis, she used to be my favorite closer over at Saddle Creek Title. She's super positive and super knowledgeable. And when we needed that position, she was the first person I thought of. She lives in Little Rock, so she, commutes. She's whatever, cyber commutes, whatever you want to call it. But she does doc prep. She reviews title. She looks at the HUD, makes sure everything's in place before we go to closing. And she also just makes sure there's no title issues that a company could be overlooking, because that could put our loan in peril. And Anna Netri's our bookkeeper. She not only does bookkeeping, she goes over accounts receivables. And if somebody's late, she'll call you, and she's tough. So she's good. She's really good. And we got a great team, and we all work well together. And I'm thankful for all of them. We'll go next one. And this is just, since we started using the software in 21, this is just kind of a dot map of all the loans we've made in Memphis that have been renovated. Some of the stuff that won't fit in the map, we go all the way as far east as Jackson, Tennessee. We were doing Little Rock. We're kind of getting away from that because I just don't know that market. We go down to Oxford, Mississippi, and a little further north. But this is the blue. The blue ones are loans that have been bought, renovated, and paid off. So those are finished loans. The reds are current loans that we have on the books right now that are in a process of being renovated, and the yellow are applications. So there's a lot of overlap in there. Just on this map, there's $72 million in loans. Average loan size is 102,000. And that's since we started using the software in 21. So there's not really one certain part of the Memphis area we're located in. We do everything from high end to low end homes. So we're all over the city. We'll go next one. And that's it. We're here to work with you. One of the add-on benefits we do, I've had a lot of first-time, people don't like to use the term house flippers, but that's what it is. They'll call me and it's their first time, and some of the best things we can do is tell you don't need to buy that house. So not only do we make the loans, you can lean on our expertise, and if it's a bad deal and you're about to buy a deal, I'll tell you. And sometimes that's the best thing I can do for you. I know people sometimes get their heart in a deal or fall in love with a piece of real estate, but we have a lot of expertise. We've made money on homes. We've lost money on a lot of homes too. And we try to help our investors succeed, because for us to succeed, our investors have to succeed. So that's why we're here. And that's it. And I appreciate you guys having me.
Questions? Okay, can I just give you, I just want to give him a testimonial. I get to work with him when the loan is ready to refinance to a permanent loan. And I want to tell you, this is an awesome way to get started in real estate. And we got Taylor in here, we got Pat Goldstein in here, Sherry Harper in here. You guys know how hard it is when people go out and look at a house that, like he just showed you, a burnout or something, and it's right in the perfect place where they want to have the real estate investments. But traditional lenders are telling them, no, no, no. Well, they're saying, yes, 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 we can do this, but you've got to get at it. You got to have your plan in place, your credit in place, so that when you're done renovating that house, you come to me, I can get them paid off, get you in a fixed rate loan. And as you guys know from hearing me talk before, the 30-year fixed rate loan, we're the only country in the world that has that. That keeps your principal and interest the same, and as rents go up, your profit, your building, and your wealth right up here. Between the P&I fixed rate and rising rents, that's where you make your money. Thank you, Frank, for all you do.
Oh, we got a question? Yeah.
Do you share your renovators?
I don't. And I don't really have that many anymore. I mean, I'll probably renovate 15 homes in a year. And I only take on really light renovation jobs. And another reason I wouldn't do it is has nothing to do with being greedy or anything else. I don't want to become involved or become a reason why they have a loan, like, well, this loan would have been fine, but your guy screwed it up. I like to keep them separate and just keep the loans and keep renovation. If it was a home I didn't have a loan on and someone just called me and asked if I had a contractor I'd recommend, I'd make recommendations. I just wouldn't want to be in charge or be helping somebody renovate the house and then get into some pointing fingers or anything like that. So I'd be happy to recommend some guys not to use too. So, I've used more bad ones. Anything else? Anybody question?
So, let's just say Taylor wanted to get started.
Yeah.
What would you recommend her to do as far as, first flip? Would you recommend her wholesale, or would you recommend to it?
When I started, and I'll share the term wholesaling. What wholesaling it means is you, by marketing, knocking on doors, you'll see the little signs, we buy houses, and the annoying phone calls we all get about, I want to buy your house. Those are a lot of times wholesalers. And what they do is they'll get a house under contract. And let's say we get a house under contract worth $100,000 and it's worth $140,000. They may come up to somebody who buys homes like me and say, Craig, I'll sign this contract to you for $5,000. That happens a lot in this town. And that's how I buy a lot of homes. Off wholesalers call me all the time that through marketing or whatever source, they find a good deal. And it's a good way to get started. It's a good way. It's low. There's not a whole lot of risk there. It's a good way to build cash, and it's a good way to learn how to find deals and analyze them. Because a lot of times, if it's a new wholesaler, they'll think it's a deal, and I'll say that's not a deal because of this, or this. So you get a lot of education without a lot of risk starting out wholesaling. I'd say that's a really good way to start. It's low risk, and you learn a lot, and you make good contacts doing it. It's a good way I'd recommend. Or what I would say, if you are going to get started with renovation, don't get out there and try a big renovation right off the bat. Do a ranch style, 1,200 square foot house to where if it goes over budget, it's not going to be big. But where I see a lot of people mess up is they'll see a house in Cooper Young to where the comps look great, but the home was built in 1925. Then they get into it and they're in big trouble.
Yeah.
That's so I keep it
Plaster
simple.
walls.
Yeah, and then the knob and tube wiring, and they get into some big, even structural issues. The joists will be spongy and all sorts of things. So I'd say keep it real simple on the front end. And, that's some advice I'd give on that. Yep.
Did the people in Australia understand your accent?
Yeah. They thought I sounded like Elvis. They loved the accent. They even had we're in Brisbane, they had Elvis, an Australian Elvis impersonator, and they had a whole Memphis party, for this actually bought an Australian real estate brokerage, which would be like buy and cry like. I brought a franchise, which was Professionals Realty Group. This idea didn't work. I ended up losing money on it, whatever. We tried. We bought Professionals Realty Group. We bought their first international franchise, and I was gonna put it in Memphis so we could list our homes on the Australian MLS, and tried it. We swung and it probably broke even. We didn't really lose much money, but it didn't really take off, but we tried it, and they had a big Memphis party over there. It's on my Facebook page somewhere. You can see the Australian Elvis and all that.
That is awesome, Craig.
Yeah.
Did he have a southern accent?
No, he was Australian. He was actually one of the brokers, was also a part-time Elvis impersonator. And it was really, really good. Really good.
Elvis was Australian in
Yeah.
a recent movie.
Oh, really? You played in Australia? That's funny. All right, is that it?
Any other questions? Well, I tell you what, if you know somebody or you are that person that wants to get into real estate, then talk to me first. Let me go ahead and make sure that we have your credit in order and that you know that you're gonna be ready to refinance when it comes time to refinance. If you're buying a fixer-upper or a fix-and-flip, I'm gonna turn you over to Craig first. Okay, so you can do anything in real estate. I believe it. I know Pat Goldstein is in the house. Pat, where are you? Sherry Harbor, Taylor. I believe that you can do anything in life that you want to do. Owning real estate. You gotta buy it right and buy it often.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's right. Thank you.